Hello, good evening, and welcome to Fettling Flames. My name is Precious Nduku Pascal, and I'm excited to be here. Who else is excited to have me in the session? Good evening, you're welcome. Glad to see you. Oh, great to know that I can be seen and be heard. Apologies, I think we had a glitch somewhere, but we've been able to fix that. So you're very much welcome. Again, my name is Precious Nduku Pascal, and I am the founder of the Royal Oak Woman. And I'm so glad to be taking you on the first episode of Fettling Flames. And the topic we are dealing with today is untie yourself. Untie yourself. And someone may be asking, what do you mean by untie yourself? I was never bound. I don't have any chains around me. Well, sometimes chains do not come in physical forms. Sometimes bondage does not come in a physical form. Sometimes bondage comes in form of limitations and myopic mindsets. You know, when we are born, that little beautiful baby looking innocent, untroubled, looking all prim and proper, and you're just being admired, you're just being cuddled, and everything seems so good. But the truth is that as you start to grow, you discover that life is not as easy as it looks. As you start to grow, you gradually discover that all that glitter are not gold. It's not all that simple. You start to discover hidden truths. You start to discover imbalances on flattened surfaces. You start to discover burdens that were never lifted, battles that were left unfinished, burdens, that were never concluded, that were never taken away, links that were never connected. You start to find questions that were never answered. And you discover that there could be hidden truths about who you are, about where you come from, about what, might come naturally to you as a result of your ancestry. The worst kind of bondage is the bondage that is masked by ignorance. The kind of bondage where a person is unaware that they are bound. That is to say, you do not know that you do not know that there is a problem. And the reason why that kind of situation is very difficult is because you cannot deal with what you are unaware of. You cannot solve a problem that you do not see. So, how do you start to lose the cords when it feels natural to your skin? How do you break the chain when you haven't even noticed it was present? How do you seek help when you have never felt like you needed one? The ignorance of captivity does not in any way exempt you from the impact and the consequences of it. You find yourself displaying negative habits, yet you claim that all is well. You find yourself having weird experiences, negative repetitive patterns, serial life jabbing occurrences, and yet you act like all is well. You realize that you are constantly tripping into traps and sometimes events that you classify as mistakes, yet they tend to set you back in months and years. You ignore the signs and you conclude that time and change of maybe environment will phase those things out. Yet, as the days go by, and as the time go by, you find out that nothing changes. Nothing changes. What do you do? What do you do? The capacity to be saved, to be helped, to be delivered has already been done. Jesus has already paid the price on the cross for you. But he will not cross into your territory without your consent. God will not force himself on you, and his spirit will not strive with you. He will only accommodate the much space that you allot him in your life. So, as human beings, we are constantly confronted with limitations. And every season, every phase of life comes with its own limitations. But at the same time, every season and every phase of life requires a certain degree of growth and transformation in that season. But what happens if in the seasons of your life you find yourself constantly struggling? You find yourself constantly unable to deal with issues rather than growing and developing. You find yourself stagnated. You find yourself unable to move. You find yourself unable to, accomplish the task that is needed for the moment. The power of realization is the power to be able to see that something is not right. The power of realization is the power to be able to tell that things are not the way that they are meant to be. It is a power that makes you to become aware of your environment, of your circumstance, of your situation, of your experiences. The power to question, why is my life like this? The power to introspect, the power to take charge, to question your life occurrences. It is realization that makes you to start to take an audit of your life, your spiritual life. Why am I not moving forward? Your relationships. Why are my friendships always failing? Why are things about me always going off the hook? Your health. Why am I constantly unhealthy? What could be wrong? What could be the problem? Your finances. Why am I not able to make it financially? Why is it that money doesn't stay with me? Many times human beings find it very much easier to play the blame game. It's very easy for you to say, oh, what I'm going through was because my mother didn't do this, that. My father didn't do this, that. And it's a human thing that started in the Garden of Eden, where, Adam and Eve made a mistake, and instead of acknowledging their fault, they started to blame. Adam first blamed Eve, and Eve then blamed the serpent. But there comes a point in your life as a human being that you start to take responsibility. You are defined by your circumstances, by your upbringing, by your environment, by your exposure, for as long as you remain a minor. But from the time you grow, you turn into adulthood, every step you take, every choice you make becomes a definition of who you are, whether they are good or bad. And that's what it means to be an adult, that you start to take responsibility. You can only say it is someone else's fault for a limited period of time. A time comes when you start to take full charge of who you were meant to be, where you stop the excuses, where you stop the blame shifting, where you stop the self-pity and start to take charge. So, you alone have the power to save yourself. You alone have the power to open the doors for your freedom. The reason why God gave you a will, the reason why God gave you the power of choice is so that you can rewrite your story, so that you can change your destiny. Freedom is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process. And for every season of life, for every time that you become older, for every passing day, there is something to break away from. Freedom is a repetitive process, not an occasional one. You need to start to ask yourself questions. What if the doors that were shut against you were actually shut by yourself? What if you're the one holding the key to unlocking the destiny that you so much desire? What if you are the one constantly self-sabotaging your greatness? What if you're the one trading your opportunities, your moments for things that are trivial and fickle? What if you were not really blind? You just chose not to open your eyes. What if the thoughts, the things you thought were freedom and comfort were actually the integrations of bondage and chains into your soul? You know, it is possible that somebody is moving about in chains, in bondage, and they think that they are free. You do life as normal. You laugh, you chat, you jab with every other person, but deep inside, there is a chaos going on. You know, there is an interesting story in the Bible about the three lepers that were in the land of Israel at a particular time. And those three lepers, they were ostracized. They had no interactions with people. As far as you know, the nation was concerned, they had nothing to do with anybody. They were rejected, they were dejected, and everything about them was literally forgotten. These three leprous men lived outside of the city, and all they did was just to bemoan themselves. They had accepted their fate. But one day, something exciting happened. They looked at themselves and they began to ask questions. Why sit we here till we die? Yes, the world has rejected us, but why reject we ourselves? Why do we need to reject ourselves? It's enough that the world has rejected us, but it is going to be worse if we too reject ourselves. And so they got up and they said, let's go into, you know, the camp of the enemies, and let's try our luck. If we go there and they give us food, it's good for us. At least we survive one more day. And if we go there, they kill us. What difference does it make? We stay back here, we die. We go into the land of the enemy, we have two chances, the chances of either dying or surviving. So let's take the chance that is more promising. And so these three lepers walked into the camp of the enemy. Unknown to them, that destiny had heard their cry for freedom. The scripture said that when they walked in, they found out that the land of the enemy, the camp of the enemies, was deserted. God had caused their enemies to hear the sound of war, the sound of marching horses and chariots, and everyone took to their heels, leaving their goods, leaving everything that was goodies in the land. And that was how 3 rejected lepers walked into their freedom, from being lepers to being billionaires, to being millionaires, to becoming the sought after people in the society. By the time they came and told the king that they had discovered food at a time when the land was suffering severe hunger, no one could believe them. As at that time, they were still being looked down on. No one believed what they said. But by this time, they had already amassed wealth. They had already taken in all that they needed, everything that they wanted, as much as they needed before they informed the city. So by the time the people in the city were coming out to take their own goods, they had already sorted out their own families. They had already sorted out their own families. So that was how they were able to sustain themselves and to sustain their families. Now, by the time the goodies began to come, no one remembered that they were once lepers. Everyone was seeking after them. You could imagine what had happened when they realized that they were billionaires. Those 3 lepers chose to untie themselves. They chose to lose the cords of limitation that was placed around them, and they gained their freedom. Sorry for the interruption. So that story is a story of encouragement, is a story of, of somebody seeking their way out, even when everything has said no. You might have been ignoring the warning signs. You may have been looking at your neighbor's lawn and wondering, why are their flowers changing color, whereas yours are completely wilted? You're looking at another person's life and you're wondering, why are these people making progress? Why is everything going for them? Why is everything working out for them? Yet nothing is changing in mine. You may have been pursuing someone else's dreams, someone else's destiny, pushing for their success, whereas your own life is dry, shallow, and marked by, despair, and your soul is seeking attention. You may have masked your worries, inactivities, excuses, comparison, competition, whereas deep down, you're slowly losing who you are and the very essence of your being. You find a way to explain away every circumstance you find yourself in. You find excuses. Oh, things are like this for me because I've had a traumatic upbringing. Or things are like this for me because I was not born into a rich family. Oh, I'm struggling in this because I did not have anybody to help me. Most people's lives are like the life of that man at the pool of Bethesda, who spent 38 years waiting for somebody to help him. If not for the mercy of God, that man would not have been helped. Why? Because he was living in self-pity. He was living in self-pity. And how do we know? When Jesus met him and asked him, why are you here? Why haven't you experienced your own deliverance? He said, because I have no man. His excuse was that another person did not help him to get into the river. And most people are like that. Their excuse is that there is nobody to help me. I have no helper. That's why. I've not stopped this habit because nobody has helped me to stop it. I've not overcome this problem because nobody has helped me. Nobody has given me money. I've not located my destiny helper. You are your number one destiny helper. You see, help of destiny, it starts with you. So it's time to begin to ask questions, to begin to introspect, to begin to find out why am I where I am? Why is my life the way it is? The things that I'm experiencing in this moment, are they the things that I want for myself? Do you know that limitations can even be in the form of success? And so when we talk about being bound or being tied, it's not necessarily because something extraordinary may be happening. It could just be that you are comfortable in the place where you are. And because you are living in comfort, you're unable to move forward. And stagnation itself is a sign of bondage. Stagnation itself is a sign of bondage. It's only a matter of time and it will start to go back to retrogression. You start to go downwards. So there is time, there is a place to begin to ask questions. You must begin to question your life, begin to take life audits about yourself. Why is my spiritual life the way it is? Why is it that I'm not making progress in my spiritual life? Why is it that my relationship with God is not growing? Why is it that my relationship with other people have never turned out okay? Why do I keep falling out with people? Why do I keep falling out with my finances? Why am I always lacking money? Why is it that money doesn't stay in my hands? Why is it that my health is always failing? I'm constantly sick. There is a problem. Nothing happens by accident. Everything in life has a source. And until you begin to question sources, you will not find solutions. I say that again. Until you begin to question sources, you will never find solutions. So, today may be a good day to ask questions. Question your experiences. Question your circumstance. Question your limitations. Question your difficulties. What have you packed away in the garage of your soul? What is that door that you never want to open? Because inside it stinks. What is the demon that you are afraid to confront? What is that habit that you feel powerless to change? What is that situation you have chosen to live with because you tried to change it and it didn't work? What is that struggle, that addiction that you now excuse others for because you found yourself equally guilty? You tried, but you couldn't help it. What is that secret you are vowed to die with, even if it has become cancerous to your soul? What is that trauma you have forced yourself to forget? But every now and again, the images and flashes back into your mind. Who is that person you never want to meet in life because something happened between you and them? What are those conversations you never want to have because you're afraid how it will end? What is that relationship you know that is vital for your next stage, but you do not want to take charge and do your due diligence because you are afraid of something? The power of questioning is the power of allowing your mind to take a course down your experiences, down to find the sources of the things that have happened around you. The power to refuse to swallow everything you see, hear, and know, hook, line, and sinker. The power to introspect, reflect, and question why things have been the way they are. Listen, freedom is not a wish. It is the result of an awakening and demonstration of action. Freedom is the language of those who choose to confront their fears. Freedom understands the language of bravery, not the language of cowardice. Freedom does not understand the language of tears. It only responds to the language of fight. No matter how difficult you think that your situation has been, self-pity will not get you anywhere. It's not something to be celebrated. It's not something to be enjoyed. Raving in your pain, raving in your struggle. You must choose to untie yourself. One powerful story about a person that chose to untie themselves that I love so much in the scripture was a woman with the issue of blood. A woman who has bled for 12 years. She didn't have any money left on her because she had spent all her money seeking for solution. Yet she couldn't find it. She had gone to all the doctors she knew, all the physicians in the land, yet there was no solution to her problem. But she didn't give up. She said to herself, it doesn't matter how long these chains have been on me, I'm going to untie myself. If your freedom doesn't come to you, you go and look for it. If your rescue does not locate you, you locate it. And that was what that woman demonstrated in the action that she took. As far as she was concerned, freedom wasn't coming to her. Freedom wasn't coming to her. Normally, it was Jesus who would go about touching people and making them whole and making them feel all right. But Jesus wasn't going to come to her. As a matter of fact, Jesus was going to heal another person. And there would have been no place for her and Jesus to meet because she was already ostracized in the society. She was unclean. So she was not even permitted to stay around people. But that woman took her life in her hands. She took her destiny in her hands. The Bible says she walked through the crowd and she told herself, I just need to touch the hem of Jesus' garment. I don't even need to meet Jesus face to face. All I need just to touch the thread on his clothes and I'll be okay. And the Bible says she went and touched the hem of his garment. And in that instant, she was made whole. Do you know that sometimes freedom is just beside you? But the reason why you can't touch it is because you haven't taken a step. Like someone who is in bondage, you have freedom surrounding you. God has placed resources, men, materials that can set you free. They are not far-fetched. They are within close reach. But you may not be able to discover them because you haven't taken a step. Healing was waiting for that woman right there on the hem of Jesus's clothes. The reason why God gave you choice, the power of choice, and God gave you will is so that you can rewrite your destiny. And it doesn't matter what your destiny looks like. You have the power, you have the will, you have the power of choice to choose what you become, to choose who you can turn out to be. And for every season of your life, there is a freedom to be experienced. Like I said, freedom is a continuous process, it's not a one-time event. There is an element of your life that needs a measure of a dimension of light to come into it part time. Any area of your life that you are struggling, it means that that area of your life needs a dimension of higher light. And you know that light is in degrees. So the question is, what degree of light is touching you in the moment? What sort of experience are you having? Are you satisfied with the experiences you're having in the now? Are you satisfied with where you are? Are you satisfied with the things that are happening around you, with who you are becoming? If you're not, then wake up and smell the coffee. Untie yourself. Untie yourself. And you know that sometimes success can be the limitation that you are facing. The fact that you have succeeded in a particular thing, the fact that you are okay, you feel okay, can become a hindrance to your next phase. The fact that you feel that everything is going on well can make you settle for comfort, can make you settle for, the shadows. Can make you settle for the shadows. And when you settle for comfort, you stop moving. So no matter what level you have attained, no matter what height you have attained, you still need to ask yourself, is there more to me? Can I be better than this? It is freedom to break away from the level of the version of yourself that you are now into a higher version of you. It is freedom to step out of the stereotype that you have been conformed to, the description of men that has been given to you, into a higher dimension of yourself. That too is freedom. It is freedom to grow out of the degrees of things you cannot do into the much that you can do, the better that you can do. Asa in the Bible, Asa was the daughter of Caleb. And when she was getting married, in the tradition and culture of Israelites at that time, they would usually give their daughters a blessing, like they would give them gifts when they are getting married. So Asa was getting married, and she was getting married to a good man, to a warrior. And so, but something happened to Asa. It was enough for her to be content and say, wow, I'm getting married to a warrior. I'm getting married to the fiercest, the strongest man in Israel. But that was not enough for her. She went to her father and she asked her father for the upper and the lower springs. She asked for the upper and the lower springs. She didn't ask for one. She asked for both. See, you can have it. You can have anything you want. And that story demonstrates how we have access to our Father, that we can ask for anything. Don't settle with the little you have. Don't settle with what you have already acquired, with the intelligence you already have, with the wisdom you already have. There is something to break out from. There is still a smallness to overcome. There is still a smallness to overcome. So bondages are not always evident in physical chains. They come as limitations of the mind and as myopic mindset. Do you know that the way you think can be a limitation? The fact that you cannot think far, the fact that you're not able to have perception, dimensions of thought can be a limitation. You can be in a room and discussions are going in the dimension of wealth and you have no clue. That in itself is bondage. Discussions are going in the dimensions of strategy. People are sitting with you and they have left you. They have gone into a new, realm. They are discussing and you are lost because you are tied to a particular mindset. There is a way that you are thinking that you can't see beyond what they are saying. You can't see beyond where you are. Culture can be a limitation. It can be what is tying you down. Oh, they have said that in this place, certain things are not allowed. You are not allowed to speak. As a woman, you should be seen and not heard. That's the limitation of culture. Untie yourself. Oh, you were designed to, to just have children, have babies, raise your children well, feed your husband. That's a limitation. That's a bondage. That's a mindset. And you can't go far with it. Untie yourself. And that's culture. They tell you that's how our mothers did it. That's how your sisters did it. That's how everybody around you did it. So you too should do it that way. It's a lie. Untie yourself. Untie yourself. The mind is the starting point of both bondage and liberty. The human spirit is so powerful that it can resist the strongest forces. And the world we live in is a clash of force. It's a clash of forces. The question is, which forces are taking hold of your mind? Your power of choice is a weapon, a potent weapon against the captivities that has held your soul. You can choose today that this thing I have struggled with it for so long, but today is the end. I can't do this anymore. Why sit we here till we die? Like, why stay I here till I die? And everyone who has made a headway, everyone who has progressed, did so because they chose. They chose. Who you become, the distance between who you are now and who you become tomorrow is the power of your choice. It's the power to say, I know that this thing is possible. It's the power to question where you are and stop playing the blame game. You choose to wrestle your way into wholeness. Like Jacob, you wrestle for the change of your name if your name is the problem. You wrestle for the change of your character if your character is the problem. Stop waiting for a pastor. We know how to delegate our problems. You are having an issue, then you are waiting for when they will organize one program, for when pastor will call for those that are going through this problem. Then you are waiting for when one vigil is taking place. You are looking for who will pray for you. Living in survival mode, living a defeated life. That's bondage. You're living in defeat. You're living in surrender mode. Every time, who will help me? Who will give me money? Who will guide me? That does not mean that you do not need guides. What we are saying is that the first step to freedom starts with you. You take that first leap and God starts to, connect you to the sources that help you arrive at your freedom. So that realization is the first step. Then there is the revolt. So the 4 R's that leads to freedom. 4 R's that leads to freedom. One is realization. You come to an awareness that something is not right. Excuse me. Something is not right. 2 is refusal. You disassociate. You disassociate from the problem. It could be a traumatic experience, something that has defined you. It could be even a physical disability. It could be a character issue. And somebody says, this girl, we know her as a liar. She's a liar. And the word liar has become your second name. Like Jacob, whose second name became deceit. His second name became deceit. And everywhere he went, he was known as a deceiver. One day, Jacob said, I refuse. I refuse to be identified by the bad character. I didn't give it to myself. It was something I was born with. It was an inherited trait. But I refuse to continue to bear this thing. It has cost me a lot. And then the third R is revolt. Start to fight back. The moment you accept that this is your circumstance, this is where it ends for you, this is who you are, you can't change it, you can't undo it, it becomes your reality. Every experience you accept as permanent becomes your reality. For as long as you accept that this is your experience and it can't change, you continue to live in it. The day it stops is the day you revolt. It's the day you say never again. Hannah continued to be defined as a barren woman until she said, "It's a lie. I can't do this anymore. I refuse to be identified as a barren woman." And that refusal led to her revolt. Every year, her family will go to Bethel and make sacrifices, and they will all go home and they will give her one portion. Why? Penina and her children will get as many portions, right? Even that one portion she got was a worthy portion. But one day Hannah said, "Worthy portion, I don't want again. I don't want anymore. I'm no more interested. I want my own child." And she began to revolt. How did her revolt start? When everybody was going back home, she said, "No, I stay back here." She refused to go home and she fought out her destiny. She prayed until the priest, who was, in his backsliding state, had to say, "Go and the Lord answer you according to your desires." Even the priest could see that this woman was not giving up. That freedom to break away from the definitions of bondage, of barrenness, it changed her life. It changed her life. So as an adult, you owe yourself the responsibility to take a chance at life. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to help you. I said that before and I say it again. You are your first destiny helper. The first cord is loosened by the decision you choose not to continue in the way that, in the things that has been happening to you. So choose to wrestle your way out. Choose to wrestle into a higher version of you. Choose to become a better person. Choose to grow into a new you. Stop sitting in comfort. Stop sitting all relaxed as if everything is fine. Destinies are being rewritten. People are making choices that will reflect in 10 years, in 20 years, in 50 years' time. Why not make your choice now? Don't bury yourself under the crowd. This person, my mate, this person this is how it is for them. They too, they are struggling. Everybody's struggling. You are not everybody. You are different. You are special. You are unique. And you have a unique roadmap for destiny. You have a unique roadmap for destiny. So, as we start to round up, what are the things that you can start to do? I've talked about introspection, reflection. Have a sit down, have a conversation with yourself. Call yourself to a board meeting and ask yourself questions. Why is my life like this? Why is it that nothing has changed since I was so years old? Why is it that every effort that I make to grow, I find myself back in a situation? It's as if I'm coming back to the same circles. Why are these patterns repeating in my life? Can we trace it down? And then as you introspect, as you reflect, you ask questions. Question. Ask your parents if you need to. Ask those you grew up with if you need to. Ask God if you need to, but ask questions. Question the situation. And when you find out the truths, acknowledge them. If you find out that this thing that is happening to me, I'm not actually the first victim. It has happened to my sister. It has happened to my father. It has happened to my mother. It's like it runs in our gene. It runs in our family. Oh, it's a problem. Oh, something led to it. I actually met someone, and after that encounter, this thing happened. Okay, this is the result of my mistake. It is the result of my choices. And it's what landed me here. But if I choose in the wrong dimension, in the wrong direction, I can also choose in the positive direction. I can choose to rewrite my story. Seek help and seek direction. Don't allow anyone define you, who you should be. There are only two people that have a matter, that have the final say on who you should be: God and yourself. And if you partner with God to actualize the blueprint that have been given for your life, you become the better for it. So when you have had your reflection and introspection, you've asked your questions, you have acknowledged, don't live in denial. Oh, it's not true. It didn't happen to me. It's a lie. I am an exemption. Sometimes it could be real. It could be that that's actually what happened, and you have to accept it for the healing to start. Because you cannot fight demons that you do not acknowledge that they are following you. You follow the cues. What patterns have you seen? What signs have you seen? And when you follow it, you step out in faith. If you need to write these things down, you write them down. The realization, the refusal, the revolt, you start to fight. If you need to seek counsel, if you need to seek out for help, don't die in shame because, don't die because you are afraid of being shamed. Oh, how will this person look at me? What would that person say? What would they think of me? Then you choose to die in your pain rather than bear temporal shame and be free forever. The power of bondage and freedom starts in the mind. And so, if you must experience any of those, you must allow your mind to move in the direction of what you are seeking. I'll end with this story. So, recently, I saw this video of a polar bear that was standing it was in an open environment. Polar bears live in snowy areas, and this polar bear was living in an open environment. But in that open environment, it was rotating in a circle. He kept on going round and round and round and round a particular circle he created for himself. That is, he so much has moved in that circle that it has created a permanent mark there. And the story behind that polar bear was because of the fact that the polar bear has been in bondage for such a long time. It was captured and kept in a cage. So in that cage, it will always move in circles. And so even when he was rescued out of the cage and taken out to the open, he still couldn't get out the thought of being in a cage in his mind. What that means is that you may be living in the most conducive environment. You may be living in the freest place on earth where you have liberty to do everything. But if your mind is still caged, you will continue to go in circles. Your patterns will be consistent. You cannot shift from the diameter of where you have been captured and what your mind is subject and subdued under. Untie yourself. You are your first destiny helper. And that's where we come to the end of today's episode of Fettling Flames, where we kindle the subtle fires that mend you into wholeness. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.